Have you ever felt more deeply understood by a complete stranger than by your own family? One comment online by someone who made you feel more seen in 3 sentences than your own family has in 30 years, who somehow described exactly what you had been carrying. Maybe it was a coworker you barely know who asked the right question at the right time. Maybe it was someone you sat next to on a long flight, talked to for a few hours about real things, and never saw again. And something in you, something quiet and deep and very tired, exhaled. Let go a little. And then the guilt arrived right behind it. Because this person doesn't actually know you, not your history, not your childhood, not your family, not the years of context that should, by all logic, be required before someone earns the right to make you feel that way. And you found yourself with a question you've probably tried not to look at too directly. Why does a stranger get to do this when the people who have known me my whole life don't? I've sat with this question for a long time, and today I want to try to say out loud what I think most people quietly feel but almost never say, because it carries too much attached to it, because saying it out loud feels like a betrayal of people you love. Here it is, sometimes the people who raised you, the people you grew up alongside, the family you belong to, they are not able to give you the specific thing you most need. Not because they don't love you, not because something is wrong with you, but because love and understanding are not the same thing. And proximity, knowing someone for decades, sharing a last name, growing up inside the same house, does not automatically create safety. It creates familiarity. And those two things are more different than anyone really prepares us for. Familiarity is knowing someone's history. Safety is being able to tell them yours without already knowing how they're going to respond. I want to tell you something about your nervous system, because once you understand this, a lot of things that have never quite made sense start making sense. Your brain is not primarily wired to find comfort in relationships. It is wired to find comfort in regulation. Those are different things, and the difference between them is everything. What your nervous system is always scanning for underneath every single interaction you have with another person is one quiet question. Can I be honest here and still be okay? Can I show the version of me that is struggling, confused, uncertain, ashamed right now, and still be received with warmth rather than being managed back towards something easier? When the answer to that question is yes, when the person in front of you is genuinely present, genuinely open, not protecting anything, something in you relaxes in a way that goes all the way down to your biology. Your nervous system finds its baseline. The low-grade tension that most people carry everywhere, the careful self-monitoring of someone who has learned over time that being fully known carries risks, it eases. And when that happens with a stranger, someone who has no history with you, no role they need you to fill, no picture of you they've spent years building, it can feel almost shockingly safe because there is nothing at stake. They don't need you to be okay. They don't need to be right about who you are. They carry no version of you they feel any need to protect. Your family often does. I'm not saying this to assign blame. I'm saying it because this specific understanding is the thing that finally made everything click for me. The people who raised us built a picture of who we are over years and decades. They built it from watching us, from the stories they told themselves about our personalities and our futures, from their own needs and their own unfinished things and their own fears about who they were raising us to become. And they are attached to that picture. They love it, which means when you show them something that doesn't fit inside it, a version of yourself that is more complicated, more uncertain, more struggling than the version they've always known, something in the relationship has to shift to accommodate what you're showing them. And sometimes they simply don't have the capacity for that shift. Not because they're bad people, because they're human, because they are carrying their own weight, and no one ever taught them what it means to hold someone else's without trying to fix it. Have you ever noticed that after certain conversations with family, you feel more alone than you did before you called? Not worse, because something bad was said, just more alone. Because you tried quietly to let something real through, and it was gently, almost lovingly redirected. The conversation moved to something safer. The subject changed. The real thing you were trying to say stayed inside you exactly where it had been before you picked up the phone, and you sat with it afterward, that specific loneliness of almost being seen and then not quite. That experience has a name. It is called not being held. And it happens most often not with strangers, not with people who don't care, but with the people who love us most and who, despite that love, cannot quite hold the fullness of what we actually are, because holding it would require them to update a picture they have been carrying for a very long time. There is a concept in psychology called co-regulation. The idea that human nervous systems don't exist in isolation from one another, that we calm down, find safety, and return to ourselves partly through contact with other warm, present, genuinely available human beings. It's why the right voice at the right moment can change the quality of an entire hour. It's why being truly heard, even once, even briefly, can shift something that has been stuck for years. Your nervous system is doing exactly what it was built to do. It is scanning for a safe place to land. And when it finds one, wherever it finds one, it responds with what feels like relief, because it is relief. The body recognizing it can stop bracing now. For many people, the family environment was the first classroom that taught them what safety felt like. And for some of us, what we learned there, not through cruelty, often just through the ordinary limitations of the people around us, was that safety is conditional, that it is available when we are the version of ourselves the family can hold, when we are performing well enough, struggling quietly enough, not needing too much, not feeling things in ways that made the people around us uncomfortable. And so we learn to manage, to present edited versions of ourselves, to keep the real things inside where they were easier to protect. And then someone who barely knows us arrives with nothing to protect, no picture to maintain, no version of us they've invested years in, and they receive the unedited thing, and they respond to it with warmth, with something that says, without saying it, this is okay. You are okay. Of course, your nervous system exhaled. It had been waiting for exactly that. I want to name something you've probably been calling guilt. But I think if you go one layer beneath the guilt, there is something quieter and heavier sitting there. There is grief. A grief for the connection you needed from the people closest to you and didn't always get to have, not because they failed you catastrophically, often just in the small moments, the quiet ones, the times you reached for understanding and received advice instead, the times you needed someone to sit with you in the hard thing and they tried to fix it because sitting in it was too uncomfortable for them, the times you were honest and felt the conversation redirect itself firmly, gently, back towards safer ground. You are not angry at your family. You are grieving something, the version of the relationship you needed and sometimes couldn't fully have, and the guilt you feel for finding understanding elsewhere. That guilt is the grief looking for somewhere to put itself. Here is something I want to say about the thing people often hear when they try to express this. Someone in their life, usually well-meaning, says, "But they're your family. They love you." And that is true. It is almost always true. But it is also not the point. Love is not the same as being held. A person can love you deeply and completely and still not have the capacity to receive the version of you that is most complicated, most vulnerable, most alive. Not because the love isn't real, because love alone does not give someone the tools they never learned. And you have been quietly grieving the distance between those two things, between being loved and being known, for longer than you've probably admitted even to yourself. There is research I keep returning to. A sociologist named Granovetter spent years studying something he called the strength of weak ties, the idea that the most important resources, the ones that actually shifted people's circumstances and perspectives, came not from the inner circle, but from the outer edges of their social world. Not because those relationships were more meaningful, but because close relationships exist inside the same bubble. They see you through the same lens. The person on the outer edge of your world sees something the inner circle has stopped being able to see. Not because they care more, because they're not correcting for who you were. They're only responding to who you are right now. I think this is true emotionally in a way that goes deeper than any research. Sometimes the person who barely knows you is the one who can most easily see what the people who love you have stopped being able to see. Not because those people stopped caring, because they got too close. The picture that they built of you calcified into something they hold rather than something they're still updating. And you have been slowly growing inside a frame that no longer quite fits. And the stranger simply doesn't have the frame. They're looking at you without it. And what they see is not the version from 10 years ago. It is just you right now as you actually are. Here is what I eventually came to understand, and it took me a long time to actually believe this. The warmth you found in unexpected places was not a consolation prize. It was not a lesser version of the real thing. It was the real thing. Connection is connection. Being genuinely seen is being genuinely seen. The warmth your nervous system feels when someone actually receives you does not require that person to share your history or your bloodline. It requires only that they are genuinely present and capable of receiving who you actually are right now without needing to protect a version of you that makes their world easier to understand. That is rarer than we were taught it should be. And finding it wherever it lives is not disloyalty. It is simply being a person who never stopped needing to be known. I'm not asking you to love your family less. I'm not suggesting that the warmth you found in unexpected moments matters more than the relationships you've built over a lifetime. What I'm asking you to sit with is whether the guilt you carry about this is pointing at something real or whether it is the voice of a story you inherited that no longer belongs to you. The story that says you should be enough for each other. That needing more than your people can give means something is broken in them or in you. That finding understanding outside the family is a form of betrayal. That story is not accurate. And some part of you has known it for a long time. You did not choose where you were born or who raised you. You did not design your nervous system or decide what conditions it needed to feel safe. You didn't choose to feel more held by a stranger's words than by your own father's response. This is not a character failure. This is what a person looks like when their need for genuine understanding is real and deep enough that when they finally encounter it, wherever they finally encounter it, everything in them recognizes it and responds. That need is not your weakness. It is the most human thing about you. It is the part of you that never gave up on connection, even when connection was hard to find. The question I want to leave with you today is a quiet one, not something to analyze or solve tonight, just something to carry. Whose version of you have you been protecting in the relationships closest to you? Not the version you've been becoming, the version they built and learned to hold. I'm not asking you to answer it right now. Just let it sit. See where it takes you in the days ahead, because I think you already know what it's pointing toward. I think you've known for longer than you've let yourself admit. And one small thing, if it feels right, just once in the next few days, when someone sees you unexpectedly, when a moment of genuine warmth arrives from somewhere you didn't plan for, let yourself receive it fully. Without the qualifier, without the apology, without the voice that arrives to remind you this doesn't count. Let it count just once. See what that feels like. You are not disloyal for finding warmth where warmth actually lives. You are not broken for needing more than you were given. You are someone who never stopped looking for the thing you most needed. And when you found it in an unexpected comment, in a brief conversation, in a stranger's voice that somehow said exactly the right thing at exactly the right moment, it was real. It counted. Your body knew it. Your chest knew it. Even while your mind was busy building the case against it. That warmth was not accidental. It was not less than what you deserved. It was exactly what you deserved. And I hope slowly and without pressure, you are beginning to let yourself believe that